Welcome, everyone. We are back in action with the next installment of Ask the Experts. It's been a long hiatus. Sorry about that, everyone. Oh, 1 second. I have some feedback. Sorry, 1 sec, guys. No, I'm the one that is now messing things up because I have something that is messing me up. I'm going to mute myself in just a sec. Oh, wow. This is not working. This is really annoying because I can now hear myself. All right, I'm just going to go like this. There we
There's
go.
no
Okay.
echo to us, if that helps.
I am sorry about that, guys. Something's going on where I'm hearing myself delayed, which is very, very disorientating. So I'm actually going to not listen to myself with this. All right, so welcome again. Sorry for the long hiatus, but we are back in action with this installment of Ask the Experts, the Valentine's Day special, where love is in the air, and it really is about love for the community. So this episode, we're going to be talking a lot about the different tools, features, integrations, systems that have been put together both by Kentico as well as all of the Kentico partners out there in the community to really help spread the love of Kentico around. So we have with us today, switch slides, your own is all MVPs today. Sadly, I couldn't find any guest speakers, which if you are looking to be a guest speaker on the show, we would gladly have you. We have your own, and we have Mike,
Hi, everybody.
Sean, and myself today. Go ahead and say hi, guys. Give a brief introduction to yourselves. Go ahead. Your own first.
Yeah, thanks. That's actually pretty well for a first introduction and also my name. I'm Jeroen Fürst. I'm 39 years old. I live in a city called Breda in the Netherlands. It's in the south next to the Belgian border. I work at a company called TrueLime. I worked there for 15 years and started as a developer. And now I'm an IT architect. I mainly focus on helping clients solve complex problems. And I've been a Kentico MVP since Kentico Xperience MVP, since 2010. So quite a while, and I've been working with the product since version 2. So that's also quite a long time, and love every minute of it. So looking forward to this episode.
All right, and Mike, go ahead and take off for you. Give your introduction.
All right. Well, I'm not going to share my age, but I could tell you I've been working with Blue Modus for 3.5 years. It's the best company I've ever worked for. Changed my life. I love it there. And I've been a Kentico MVP. This will be, I think, my 3rd year, and I love the Kentico community. The community is what caused me to feel a dedication and commitment to work with the product because I love the community so much. Thanks again, Brendan. And yeah, so I now I've been a solution lead and now a VP of technology at Blue Modus. So I'm involved in actually just helping all kinds of teams at Blue Modus do our best work in terms of architecture and best practices and so on with Kentico Xperience.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Sean, go ahead and give you your introduction, although most people, I think, will recognize you as you're a regular on the show.
Yeah, I've been here a couple times. My name is Sean Wright. I'm a Chief Solutions Architect at Wired Views, a digital marketing and web development agency in Ohio in the USA. I've been a Kentico Xperience MVP for, well, this is my 3rd year now, just like Mike. Been using the product for a long time. I think I cut my teeth on Kentico 7, but I really didn't get involved in the community and all the cool stuff that's going on until Kentico 12 MVC came out. And I found some passion for everything Kentico Xperience.
Awesome. And of course, I'm your host, Trevor Fayes, Senior Engineer at Heartland Business Systems. We've been doing Kentico for a long time as well and love giving stuff out to the community. And that's what kind of inspired this, is that we all have kind of contributed, that's why everyone's here, to the community and want to kind of share some of that stuff out there. So welcome, everyone. Today's topics are as follows. We're going to be talking about refresh features and highlights. This is going to mainly focus on all the refreshes, and again, what tools and things that Kentico has provided in these refreshes to the community to help you develop and build awesome websites. Your own is going to be going through some Odyssey / Experience by Kentico. That's the next version that's going to be out there, the new product, and some of the things that it has to offer. Then we're going to be going through all the community tools that are out there, all the different packages that you can install, all the different things to help build your site better. Now, along with that, we're going to be going through the modeling and styling guide, which are 2 different tools, one by Kentico and one by Sean, to help you build sites better. And lastly, we're going through a revamp of the Kentico 13 baseline site and its new features and stuff like that. So without further ado, we're going to start with the refresh highlights. So this lists out the different integrations. So integrations, of course, are awesome because then we don't have to write the integration. And of course, Kentico will do a much better job at it. So we have a bunch of different types of integrations that they've covered through and opening up for chat. And those that are watching the video, if you see something on here that you want to know more information on or that you just really like, please comment in the channel. Tell us which one you're really excited about and maybe even some features or integrations that you would love to see. So what do you guys think of this awesome list? Which one is your favorite of this? So let's put everyone on the spot. I'll start it off to give you guys some time to analyze. I'd say my favorite one is probably a mixture between the image AI and the text analysis. More so the image AI, because what that allows it to do is allows you to, when you upload your media items, it can automatically put in descriptive tags. You can have it automatically inject those things in there, which is going to make your SEO or your experience for those who have like screen readers a lot better, as well as for SEO that you're going to have descriptive elements on your tags. So a lot of people who are working that are just content editors, they want to throw up an image and they always forget to put the image tags in. So that's a cool one that they put in there that actually uses Azure's AI to look at the image and see what it is. Mike, what's your favorite?
Well, I really like that one too. However, I'd have to. I actually did some sites for Microsoft where they actually had their own department in the legal team doing ADA testing, and I discovered using screen reader testing that it's a mistake to like make sure alt text is always read to the person using a screen reader, because often it's 2 people standing next to a desk, beautiful sunset, and there's so much of that, and even repeated things like the alt text might be exactly the same thing as a heading right next to it. That is also really important to use ARIA attributes to prevent that alt text from being read when you really just want it there for SEO and often not for screen readers. So even though this is really cool and makes things easier, it's still important for those authors to have the ability and to be paying attention to whether or not you really want that read to someone. So I do like that one a lot, though.
Your own? What's yours?
Yeah, I like the Azure parts as well. We use Azure, I guess, most of our solutions. And the one that I really like, also conceptually, is the text analysis and how you can also plug it in, for example, the marketing automation, and to use it to decide and use it as a condition to go into a certain flow. So imagine that you would capture some form input, and you could scan that the text and analysis, use the text analysis to make a differentiation between if it's a happy answer or maybe even it got some bad comments. And then you can use that to also already identify that and apply some additional action or maybe follow up on that from within Kentico Xperience. So having that capability out of the box, that's pretty cool. I like to get my hands dirty with that.
That is really cool.
John, what's your favorite of these?
I'm gonna go against the grain here and say, despite the fact that I have not personally used them, I like the Discuss Jira Intercom integrations because those are open source. And I think that this is promising for the community that Kentico can lead the way for Kentico Xperience as a product, showing how integrations can be done, right? Because there's millions of products out there. You can't integrate with every single one, but they can show great examples of, hey, if this is a system that is important to a large group of customers using Kentico Xperience, they can create an integration for that. And then if we have individual needs or requirements, we can look at those integrations and use those as a template for creating our own and making sure we're following best practices, and also get feedback on them from the rest of the community.
Awesome. All right, we're going to skip ahead now to the tool sets. So some of these are pretty simple, but these are different things that they've added in. We'll do another quick, review of, what they kind of do. One big one, which I think we're all excited about, is Refresh 4 has .NET 6 support. I think as of like hotfix was it 58, they fixed the last bug that they found with moving to .NET 6. So now you can use .NET 6, which of .NET 6, there's a whole bunch of performance improvements and really cool things. I will say I'm really, really, really excited about optional parameters on view components, because that's a .NET 6 thing, and that is that's my favorite thing right of here now. Now, of the other stuff that they provided in for tools, widget copy is my next, I'd have to say. And well, almost all of these are like essential things that they really have done. Form builder, section properties. Go ahead, just go through the list. Mike, you want to pick on one that you've used or that you really like?
I think widget zone restrictions is really important because it gives us developers control in order to make author experience better. Some of these things we could do ourselves, but this is something we really needed in the framework to give us the ability to tailor the experience and help. Like if there's a zone and that zone is made for a few types of widgets, now we can make it easy for the author because that's all they're presented is those few widgets. So that's a really important one to me.
Your own?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. For me, it's also the enrichment of the low code, no code story. Yeah? So like with form builder, section properties, you can easily enhance your form, and it's like the next level on top of just dragging and dropping the fields that you need. You can extend that form and make it, for example, 2-column, 3-column. So that gives a lot of additional flexibility there. So that's, if I would pick one, that would be it.
We're close.
Sean?
That's my number 2.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of .NET 6 support because I think it's really important for Kentico Xperience as a product to stay up to date with the platforms that it's founded on. In this case, ASP.NET Core and .NET 6 as of today. Of course, in the future, next year, we're going to have .NET 7, and I expect to see Kentico Xperience moving forward with the larger .NET community in lockstep and supporting the new versions of platforms, frameworks that are coming out. I also really like the multiple page and path selection support for widget and section properties. In the past, we would make multiple widgets, right? You'd have multiple instances of the same widget so that you could select multiple pages. And of course, sometimes it's nice because you want different configuration for each widget, but other times you want the exact same configuration. So we had all sorts of ways of getting around this, like selecting a container page and having all of the pages underneath it be pulled in, but then you might not have them ordered in exactly the order that you want, or maybe you only want to select a subset of them. Well, the multiple path selection makes this much easier. So it's a small convenience, but if you are leveraging lots of reusable content in your site, then this is something that you'll definitely be able to take advantage of.
Awesome. So all these are just available in the refreshes. So if you hotfix your Kentico Xperience 13 instance to the hotfix that matches these refreshes or above, they're already baked in. So those are all things that you don't have to do anything, just hotfix your solution. All right, we're going to take a segue and now talk about Odyssey, or what is now called Xperience by Kentico. That's going to be their next flagship project. So I'm going to hand it over to your own. Do you want to share your screen, or how can I help you with this one?
Yeah, let's try sharing my screen.
So share your screen, and I'll remove mine and add yours.
All right. All right.
So remove mine, add yours. Hey, and with the
Okay.
magic of the internet, we
Ooh.
have liftoff.
Cool.
All right, take her away.
Thanks. So I wanted to cover some on Odyssey, the next version of the next generation of Kentico Xperience. So the points that we covered in the last bit, it was about the refreshes, and those apply to Kentico Xperience 13. So if you're using that, those refreshes apply. But Kentico is already working on the next generation. It's not version 14. We don't use that naming. It's called Xperience by Kentico, basically. So the next generation of Kentico. And if you're in the beta program, then you can already see some. You can already taste some of Odyssey, and I'd like to share that with the audience today. So in order to do that, I've created a simple folder, and I want to go through the steps on how you can easily how it will work once you will start working with Odyssey. And maybe just a quick notice is this is probably going to change over time. This is still pretty early stuff, and this will also be covered more and more by Kentico in the upcoming months. Also, with having the Kentico connection coming around in the next month, more details around this next generation will be submitted. So let me just go to this empty folder here, and while in the previous installation of Kentico, you would be using the Kentico installation manager. Now it's one of the options that they provide now is using the command line approach. And the first thing that you will have to do is, and let me grab some code here, is install the Kentico Xperience templates, which are you can find them on the NuGet. So in this case, I'm going to install one of the latest versions of the templates, one of the latest builds. And once you've done that, in my case, it will say it's already installed. So I've already covered that past. Then we are ready to start our new project. The next step would be installing a new website template based on the install template. And here you can see the command line. It's a basic Kentico Xperience sample MVC site, and this is a code name Acme Web, where you can which you can provide. And on the background, you will also see that my folder has been filled, and now I have. If you install a Kentico Xperience 13, this will look familiar because it's basically the MVC site, the .NET Core site that you get when working with Kentico Xperience. For this next generation, you will find this site, and now you have the basics to start. There are only a couple of things that you still need to do because Kentico on the water needs a database. We'll have to install that, and for that, and I'll just put it in as a reference. You will have to use the command with the Xperience Database Manager. You can specify your SQL server. You need to specify a license and the database name, and that will hook everything up. So I'll just skip this step, and I already have one running on my system. So this is this, and just like I mentioned, you can see here the .NET Core MVC site. And if you run it, you will see a familiar face, namely the Dancing Goat demo site, which they already ported to this next generation of Kentico. Again, mentioned, it's still a lot of work in progress, so not all the features have been already ported to the new version, but it sort of gives you a first impression of how this new tool will work. And one of the important parts, obviously, is the admin interface. And to access that, just go to admin, and you will get into this new admin, which has been rebuilt from scratch. So the old admin interface was built on web form technology, and that has been removed with the next generation of Kentico and has been replaced with an interface built on React. And you can start noticing how fast it is loading once you log in. and again, it's still work in progress, but it gives a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be expecting in the near future. You can see a dashboard with a couple of applications, that already sound familiar. So we see parts like the page types back, which will probably be enhanced in the future, but the concepts still apply. We see a pages application, and for me personally, things that I really love to see back in the next generation is the page builder. So we can see a content tree here, and on the right hand side we see the page builder in action. So we can use it as the same way as we've been used in Kentico Xperience 13, and we can develop our widgets, provide them, and then use the next generation to build our websites in a similar way.
Is it safe to say that they still have it where the admin site is just a NuGet package, right?
Yeah.
So you can have your MVC site, and you can say, I'm just going to throw the admin on here, slap, and now it's the site and the admin.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, Trevor. You can see a NuGet package, and it's just a NuGet package, the admin. So if you remove that, then you get your base site without an admin. And if you want to add the admin, you just install the package. Additionally on that, the biggest benefit is obviously that you can update NuGet packages. Well, in the previous, you would have to run a hotfix utility to apply the hotfix to the database, to the admin interface, to the MVC solution and projects. Now it's just a couple of clicks and you have updated your Kentico Xperience project, which is pretty cool. Now, and just to highlight a few things, to get some more, to get a little bit more familiar with the application, you can see things like an event log bag. We see the parts around digital marketing with contact groups, contact management, forms, and also in this place, something. I think I broke something, but you can see the familiar form builder back in action, and you can get a feeling that those parts are being reused all over in the next generation. Again, need to point out, this is not final, so a lot of things will be still being added through the next couple of milestones, because this is being heavily developed on. Just want to give a short impression of how it works.
Awesome. And like I said, that for the most part, on the MVC side of things, you notice a lot of difference, or pretty much very similar to Xperience 13?
Yeah. I so far, what I could see, it's a pretty similar experience. It's just not running on .NET 6 yet. I noticed it's still on .NET 5, but I guess that's just a matter of time. Next milestone will probably move that as well. But for the rest, concepts are similar, so that's good. And as always, Kentico allows you to enhance the whole project to your needs. So that's a flexibility that you have. And just one more cool thing I just want to quickly point out, and which I'm really happy of, because with the whole the old CMS and the extensibility custom modules, I really love that you already get a teaser of that's still possible. And I have here added a custom project with it, which if you get access using the beta program to the documentation, it will provide you with this additional code. And you can see I got some examples excluded, so I'll include that. This is a custom template, and just run the project again. And you will see that in this way, just by providing one piece of code, you can also still enrich the admin part. And in this case, I've added this custom module with some custom code, and it will, update the server time. So that's pretty cool. You still have the option to modify and enhance the whole CMS like we're used to. by just providing some code like this. So that made
And I
me
think
very happy in my exploration, and I'm really looking forward to when it comes out, and hopefully that's the time is soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. So
You're
it's
on-
awesome.
Very cool.
Can you
Go
jump
ahead.
back to that admin dashboard real quick?
Sure.
I think it's worth pointing out that if you look at the URL in the browser,
Yeah.
that's not a GUID. It's a URL that is readable. When you're customizing these additional pages and modules in the application, you have full control over what the URL is going to be. And so that means we can deep link people into a certain part of the application looking at a specific object. Some of that is possible right now with the Kentico Xperience 13 administration app, but it's very doable and very easy to do with Xperience by Kentico with the new architecture that they've come up with. I think that it's just a nice little convenience that when you have to use it, when you want a URL that you can copy and paste and send to someone, it just works.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
gonna be awesome.
All right, so we're going to dive in next to talk about tools. Now, there are a lot of tools that we're going to go through, so we're going to try to hit them pretty lightly, and just as we go through, just talk about, give it like a 1-minute snippet or 2-minute snippet about what the tool is, maybe what inspired it, and what you can do with it. Now, after the show is done, we're going to be pasting all these links into the description of the video that you can take a look at it. Pretty much every single one of these is open source. I don't think any of these are not open source. They're all in GitHub, so you can take a look. You can extend them. If you have a bug, you can post a bug chat, all the different things. So I kind of broke it down to start with wired views. So Sean, these are all the ones that your company has provided to the community. A very big contributor to the community as well. And we greatly appreciate that because I've used a lot of these. For almost all of these I've used. So go ahead and take it away, and guys, just a little bit through about what each one is, and again, what it does and why you built and what problem it solves.
Yeah. So before I jump into that, I'm sure everyone can notice that these are all named Xperience Community. They're not named Wired Views something. And that's because I really want these to feel like they are part of the broader community, and I want to encourage people to feel comfortable using them. Right? It can be a little awkward sometimes if there is a package in your project that belongs to someone else, or maybe you don't feel like this. It's just a one-off package that someone randomly wrote. I want this to feel a lot more like this is something you can go and make additions to, or recommendations or contributions to, but it's also, again, part of the broader community. So these are all part of the Xperience community ecosystem of packages that we're working on building out now. And if you have any great ideas for packages or libraries, things that you think would be helpful to someone else, go ahead and make your own project and label it under the Xperience community namespace, and it'll become part of that bigger ecosystem.
And I'll say that Sean's already done this to pretty much all of his. He had some that were not under the Xperience community. I still have some that are not. So as we revamp them, we are also putting it Xperience community. So definitely encourage you as you develop out, use Xperience community as the prefix. And if it's not that, you'll have to make the decision on switching the namespaces. I know it's a no-no. You're never supposed to rename a NuGet package, but I really like this because it's easy. You can search and you see, oh, look at all these tools just by searching for that. So, all right, go ahead and take away, Sean.
Yeah, so we have a couple sets of tools in here, and these are things that we've developed over time based on our experiences with Kentico Xperience 13, and things that we found would be helpful, maybe common patterns that we were using, or areas of the application where we thought a small enhancement would unlock a lot of functionality. So looking at the top, these code tools, these are all things that you're going to be using in your Kentico Xperience 13 ASP.NET Core application. So these are all, I think their target framework is Net Core App 3.1. So if you are targeting ASP.NET Core 3.1, which is the default for Kentico Xperience 13 for the ASP.NET Core application, these will all be supported. They also work in .NET 6. So if you are targeting .NET 6, latest and greatest, these will work fine too. So these are all kind of like quality of life improvements. There's nothing in here that you couldn't do with the out-of-the-box Kentico Xperience APIs. So if everything's working just fine for you, continue on with that, I guess. But take a look at these packages if you are interested in seeing different ways of maybe making your developer experience a little better, or if you are maybe looking to adopt some patterns that you hadn't thought about before. And I think with a lot of these, there might be blog posts in the README linking to some blog posts that I written detailing exactly why these are helpful or how I think these would be good to use. I think the most popular one is the page builder tag helpers. This is great because you can display content when the content administrator is using the administration app and using the page builder. You can display some content to them that only they can see and doesn't appear on the live site, or you can display content that would only appear on the live site. So these work a lot like the environment tag helpers that come with ASP.NET Core out of the box, except they target the mode of the page builder in Kentico Xperience. And we use these all over the place because there is a lot of stuff that you want to do depending on how the page is being rendered. Is it being rendered on the live site, in preview mode, or in the page builder edit mode? So below that,
no, I just didn't mean to click there. Keep on going.
Below that, there's the feature tools, and these are except for the RSS feeds, these are things that would be installed in the Kentico Xperience administration app, and they add some additional functionality to really the content management experience. So, for example, SVG media dimensions. Normally, when you upload an SVG into the media library, it doesn't get a width and height. It's just not part of the feature set of the application. But if you are rendering images on your live site, these days it's recommended to have width and height attributes so that the browser can set aside the correct amount of space and you don't get cumulative layout shift as the image is downloaded. This applies to SVGs as well. So by being able to tell the browser, hey, this thing has kind of these dimensions when the SVG is rendered, you're going to get a better page experience for your visitors. And this small package, if you add it to your application, it's going to make sure that uploaded SVGs have those width and height dimensions set on them if it's possible to set those values. And then there's some other things like the page custom data control extender that allows you to take content that a content administrator is entering into a page, and instead of storing it in a page custom field, it would store it in the custom data field, either node or document custom data of a page. There's lots of reasons why you might want to do this. It can be very, very powerful, and there's more documentation with all of these about, again, how to use them and what might be the best way to use them.
I'll give a for example. We're doing a project right now for a client that they have sections. So you have a page and it has different sections, an image section, text section, whatever. And of course you want to model your content after what it is. So a text section has a title, subtitle, content. They also have styling. And the original rendition had literally like 20 style fields to style these elements on the content item. So what I did in the new version is I still had the title, subtitle, content as part of what it was stored in the database in the normal fields, but I took all the styling elements, broke it down, but then I used it as the node custom data, so that way the entity stays the same as what it is. It still is a title, subtitle, content. And then the node data stores styling stuff, which could change, which we may throw out if we do another design or something like that. So it doesn't change about what it is. It kind of adds what it has. Likewise, some of these other tools that John, didn't mean to click that, has, like the page navigation redirects, that leverages it as well. So a page can have a redirect logic to go to the first child, to go to this other page or whatever. And that leverages the custom data to say that my page isn't a redirect, it has a redirect. So these are ways to kind of add that functionality in there. Just going through the individual tools, because I've used them a lot as well, just for those that are curious. Page template utilities, that allows you to be able to have kind of a naming convention to your page templates for automatically hooking up filters. So that way each filter, each page template is assigned a page type, and that way it automatically filters. That's been awesome. The page builder utilities and the tag helpers, as you mentioned, kind of allow you to put tag helpers to say show on live versus not live, or develop versus develop, or edit mode or whatever. The query extension just adds some extra. I think that one has the to list to it, right? To list async.
Yeah, so there's a lot of times you're querying async through using Kentico Xperience's APIs, and you get your data, and it's maybe a collection of tree nodes or something like that. But actually, you want to like trim that down. You want to trim that down to maybe just the ID and the document name. But what you end up with is a collection of tree nodes, and then you have to trim that down using a select with link or something like that. Some of these extensions allow you to stay in that async space and do the modification of your data set there before you return and get your concrete data after you've awaited that async operation. There's another query extension in there that I use a lot with the page retriever that lets me get paged data back, which is something that is kind of tricky to do. You have to do a lot of kind of gymnastics to do paging with the page retriever and be able to get like the page total page number and total count of items and all that stuff. And that extension makes it very convenient, makes it feel like it's part of the page retriever.
Awesome. And then the app settings JSON registration that allows you again to extend out your JSON registration on it. The one that is in beta, which I'm, again, so Sean's been working on this. I'm not sure if you want to comment on it. What is the CQRS? Just talk a brief moment on that, because that's a cool concept. You've done a lot of blog articles on it, I think.
Yeah, so this kind of is a culmination of, like Trevor said, many blog posts that I've written. This is a pattern that we use at Wired Views for data retrieval. There's lots of different ways that you can do data retrieval, and they all have pros and cons. But we find that the CQRS, which is command query segregation, responsibility segregation, to be a great pattern. And what this does is enforces a pattern where each retrieval of data from the database is its own query. And that query's implementation is its own class. And the query itself, the data that you have to pass, is its own class. And you end up with a lot more classes than you traditionally might. But what it does is give a strong architecture that is typically feature-based for data access and retrieval. And it's very predictable about what data you need to send and what data you're going to get back. And if you set this up in a certain way, then you can ensure that Kentico Xperience's types like tree node and base info objects don't escape that data access into your application. And it makes the application a lot more predictable in terms of data retrieval. So
awesome.
Still working on this to make sure that the API is as nice to use.
You have to check the pre-release if you want that one. So just saying it's there, but it is beta. So that's pretty awesome. All right, we're gonna head into the next set. So this is Heartland. So HBS, like I said, both me and our team has produced a lot of different packages out there because we love the community. We are very big about, I remember how many years ago was it? During one of the conferences, we were pushing like, hey, everyone has their own way of doing these things and it's all secret. Let's open this up and let's actually start sharing these things with the community to help the community out. So a couple big things. So I have less code tools because Sean is definitely more the code guy to make all the cool stuff. I have MVC caching as the first tool that allows you to do your caching and dependency tracking across your application. So it, Kentico has built-in caching and stuff like that, but as a lot of it, the widget caching and even your just basic MVC.NET Core caching, you need to be able to set the dependencies that cache has. So that tool allows you to be able to track from start to end, point A to point B, what dependencies were all accumulated in there. So that way, when you cache that section, it has all the proper dependencies, and thus, when one of those changes, it will clear it out for you. So that's one tool that just helps you with the iCache store and iCache build, or iCache dependency store and iCache, forgot the other one, allow you to do that. It also automatically hooks up your repositories if you put the iRepository. So it's a way that you don't have to do DI, dependency injection, and hooking up in the server state. You have to list every single implementation. As long as it has iRepository or iService, it'll automatically hook up for you. So those are a couple of cool things with that. Editor tools. So these are things that as a content editor, you're going to be leveraging. Bootstrap layout tool. It's been there since Kentico 12.1, I think, and it's probably one of our more popular tools. Allows you to have Bootstrap flexible layouts. You can set the number of columns, the CSS, all that stuff that allows people, when they're building their landing pages, to be able to structure it pretty fairly easily. It also has the form sections as well that you can do your Bootstrap form layouts in it. So that's a tool that just kind of extends, so you don't have to build custom sections every single time, you know. Page builder containers. This one is a throwback to the web part containers back in Portal Engine, which allows you to have a Kentico admin controlled outline that would wrap around your widget. So you can do things like if you have like a card layout or a card container or whatever, you can have a rich text and put in a card, set a heading, and have that functionality restored that you can leverage the title, the CSS class, the custom content wrappers around it. That's managed in the admin. So that's a throwback to that tool. Partial widget page allows you to then be able to select a page or from somewhere else, and then be able to render those widgets on another page builder page. So there's both the widget itself that's included in here, but more so the tag helper that allows you to set the context, that you can literally say, this section here, I'm going to treat it as this document ID. And thus you could do like tabs where you have a parent and then tab items, and each tab has its own widgets. You can loop through those, set the context, and render the widget zone as a nice way to be able to load in other pages, page builder into this structure. Also, you can use it with like shared content. So like if you have a piece that you want in multiple locations, you can have it in one spot and then pull that in with that widget. So again, just functionality that helps you in those certain scenarios to be able to do those type of things. Feature tools. So a couple ones here that are kind of nice. One is the Kentico Xperience, and as you see, some of them are Xperience community, not all of them. The localizer allows you to use the iString localizer, not HTML localizer, with fallbacks to Kentico's resource strings. I found out that the basic implementation did not leverage the resource strings in the Kentico admin, and I know a lot of people still leverage that. This works completely with normal resource regex files, so it'll prefer the regex. If it can't find it, it'll use the admin. So that allows you to restore that functionality. Wildcard URLs allows you to add alternate URLs to your pages that have the curly bracket to set dynamic routing for your pages. This is for scenarios where you really want to leverage like the Kentico features, the page builder features, maybe the built-in Kentico security or whatever, but you still want to have some sort of dynamic nature to it. And basically it takes all those parameters and throws it into the HTTP context request routing parameter so you can grab that. So it's a way to kind of restore back in Portal Engine where you could do those dynamic URLs and where it would inject it into the query string. This just injects it into the route. You can even like on your view components, you can put from route and the parameter, and it would inject into there, I think, on that. So that's what that one's there for. Limited a little bit more because most times if you don't need page builder and all the other stuff, just do a normal controller and just be done with it. But in the scenarios where you really want all those other things, sometimes this is still a way that you want to go. Sometimes. The authorization is the next one. So baked into Kentico, you have your user role and authenticated, and that's just basic .NET Core, like for authorization. And that can really only be done on like your controllers and actions. So this tool does two things. One, it allows you to have authorization on your page templates, because a page template by default goes to a view, so you don't have any place to inject this. And then the other thing it does is it adds different levels of authorization. So you have the ability to do by user, by role, by module permission class, where you have like your module permissions and you have the codes. You can also do it by a custom authorization logic. So you can have something completely custom that just has the code and you decide if it's authenticated or not. So that's another one. And I think there's one other one, just if they're, and page. So you can leverage Kentico's built-in page security in it as well. So all those are available in the Kentico authorization module. So now you can fully have a full control over it again. Again, even if it's page template or if it's not. So it's all there. The HBS Kentico.ecommerce, this one allows you to get in your e-commerce functionality. Now, Kentico has e-commerce built into its platform, so it has all the APIs. But what this does allows you to have very easy add to cart functionality. It has the full checkout. It has the full single page checkout where you put in your address, verified, shipping, all the rest, all that's baked in. And it's just based on Bootstrap, and you can customize it. The other cool thing is it allows you to do JavaScript overwrites for everything. So if you want to customize the functionality at any point in time, everything can be overwritten. All things are interfaced, so you can inject your own logic into them. And just by simply adding data attributes, you can add in custom cart data to your items. So if you have like a first name, last name that goes with the item, you can just use JavaScript to set those attributes, and it takes care of the rest for you. Modeling tools is the last one. The relationship extended, that's a huge tool that allows you to do node categories. It allows you to set better UIs to have related pages that can limit what page type, which items. It has a couple user interfaces. There's a lot in there. It also allows you to hook up like related objects, like pages to object relationships, and all those different relationships that were hard to do out of the box is part of that tool. And hopeful that next version of the Kentico with Xperience by Kentico are going to have a lot of this stuff kind of hashed out. So we're excited to kind of see where that goes. So those are the tools that we have. There's one more that's in the works, and that kind of goes with Mike Will's thing where you want to have widget sets, like where you want to put stuff. So we're working on a module that allows you to define a widget as a global widget, or only show in the specific set names. And that way on your zone, you can say, this header is the set name of header widgets, and it'll only show your header widget specific ones or header plus global. So that way, and then we're also going to add an authorization or authenticate authorization to them as well. So you can say that this widget's only for global admins or for this role. So we're going to add that functionality in. It's not there yet. It's coming. So that's to come.
Nice.
All right. So now this is a mixture. So Mike, you want to take away and talk about your tools?
Sure. Well, I think probably my most useful one is the staging configuration module. If you've ever had, and I'm sure all of us have experienced having to manually track what Kentico objects need to be in the next deployment. Oh, I updated these page types, added this role, and you end up with a checklist that humans have to follow to make sure the deployment is complete. You'll probably like this. I don't know how many times I've heard a report where a customer says, hey, after the deployment, this isn't working. And the response was, oh, I forgot to deploy. And what that usually means, I forgot to stage this particular object. So to solve that, this module allows configuring what Kentico objects are even tracked in staging in the Kentico staging module. So it's not full of clutter. It's only full of the things you ever want to deploy from one environment to the next. And using web config transformations, you can actually make it environment specific. So you might want a lot of things to be able to be pushed from, let's say, your authoring environment up to your live environment, but maybe only a smaller set of things from, let's say, a dev environment to QA and then to UAT. So by configuring it per project, per environment, it ends up being set up so when it's time to deploy, the staging module is actually telling you the list of what needs to be deployed and nothing more. And you can say stage all, and your deployment's done. So it removes all that opportunity of human error during deployment. And it also, frankly, keeps your staging task table from getting out of control, which many of us have probably experienced as well. So that I think that's probably the most useful one. The other one is really helpful. Upsert alternative forms is helpful for content modeling scenarios where you're inheriting page types. We do that a lot. Imagine, let's say you might have many page types that could be listed or displayed as cards, and they need to have common fields to make the reuse of the content easiest and so on. So you might have a listing base type that has a title, summary, thumbnail, and so on. But in the inherited page types, you might have one that's product or one that's promotion or something like that, and you want to change the labels. Or maybe you have a field where you allow relating other content. You want to change its filters. You can do that in an alternative form. But out of the box with Kentico Xperience, you need to maintain 3 alternative forms in that case: the insert one, the update one, and the new culture one. This module just allows you to maintain one for every page type named upsert. And so that's pretty useful too if you're using alternative forms and finding you have to maintain 3 of them. And the third one, page assets folder, is useful if you're using a lot of reusable content like Sean. We do that a lot as well. And we end up having centrally managed folders in the content tree, often named a content library, and that's where authors would put content they intend to manage and reuse in several places. And at first, almost all content was going there, and it turned out again to be a little bit overwhelming and cluttered. And what we realize is even though reusable content is the ideal, the holy grail, the reality is there's a lot of content that's page specific. So this module just makes it easy to provide authors an automatically created page assets folder under each page according to type, so that authors have a place to put that reusable content that's actually just going to belong to that page. It's still structured, it's still separate from page layout, it's still easy to translate, but it's not in a globally managed form, kind of cluttering the content that really is going to be reused.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome. The other two, and I tried to get Eric on here, and he's camera shy, is Xperience Core Events and Breadcrumbs. So the Breadcrumbs is just a breadcrumb module to add to your site. The Events is nice because it actually uses the calendar.io plugin, I believe, which I've used on several projects and is a very solid calendar application. So it actually allows you to integrate with that and to have a very nice looking calendar. So don't reinvent the wheel. If you need to do events, that's a great plugin to do. All right, we're going to move on then. Speaking of content modeling, we are 2 guides that are out and available now. So one by Kentico, one by Sean. So we're going to take a look at these real quick though. And so that way you have, get my right screen, this one. There we go. So the first is the content modeling guide that is on DevNet. So you go to devnet.kentico.com, go to the documentation. Then you can click on the question mark icon in your Kentico admin to get here as well. But there's under the developing websites content modeling guide. And this is a guide that Kentico is putting together, and I think they're still working on it, that really outlines where to store content, what are the pros and cons, what are different things that you can leverage, and what are, to give some guidance, because really there's like at least 3 ways to do almost anything in Kentico, right? You can put it here, you can put it here, you can get attachments, media library, this, that, the other place. You can put it at a page type, a module, class, custom table, and this will go through and kind of guide you on, here are some recommendations, here's all the different places and what they're good for. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that anyone who's starting with Kentico, or even if you've been in Kentico for a while, take a look at this content modeling guide, read through it, see if any of your stuff lines up, make sure you have reasons this way or that. But, and again, there's going to be different ways to do things. So this tries to be fair to as most as possible. But this is a great little guide that they put together to do that. And if you have recommendations for it, I think there is also still the link on the bottom that says send us feedback. You can say, what about this, that, or the other thing, and they'll process through that. Any comments on this, guys? You guys looked through it yet?
Read it. Everyone needs to read this. I'm very biased because a lot of this content mirrors the recommendations that I've been making in blog posts and my Kentico Xperience connection talks for the past couple of years. So, I'm going to be nodding my head to this, but the recommendations in here are patterns and advice that we have followed with Wired Views, and it's led to success for our projects. So if you are maybe familiar with the Kentico Xperience APIs and code, but not so familiar with the options that you have available for designing sites and modeling content, come in here, read this guide, give it some thought, try out the different recommendations, and see how it works for you. My guess is that you're going to achieve a lot of success through this.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe my 2 cents is also that if you've done multiple projects previously and you've come up with your own set of best practices which do not really match what is said here, it's also good to look at the roadmap from time to time, because one example with the media libraries, we've chosen different paths on that, and now Kentico, with an upcoming refresh, they are trying to add to the system that you can track where the assets are being used, which is a huge benefit if you have multiple assets spread it out over hundreds of pieces of content, and that might have you chosen a different route to handle media. So if you look back and you're aware that that's coming, that can influence future projects for you as well.
Yeah, just to highlight, speaking of the media, like I said, the documents say probably don't want to use attachments as much because they are rethinking that one. So reading this guide also is going to hopefully help you align yourself with where Kentico is going with Xperience by Kentico. And just an example, like this is a big one. Like Kentico released the feature of the navigation, feature that you can add in to say this is a navigation item, so you could detect them. After talking with all of us, we're like, honestly, we used to do that for small sites, but now we found that customers really need that manual navigation that they can have control over and stuff. So right here we see that they mention theirs for small projects, but for larger projects they're saying use this a dedicated navigation item. So they've taken feedback from other people and other sites. So this is a really cool thing, and not just touting their features, but also what they've seen and heard from other people in real life situations. So the other thing to now tie into this, so this is like more like the admin, how you do your content modeling. This is the structure of it. Sean has put together a community styling guide, which is going to be more along the lines of the coding structure and architecture of things. So go ahead, Sean, take it away.
Yeah, so this is something that I started a while ago. I've been working on it in my spare time. You can select the project configuration. There's a lot of stuff in here that I've been adding, and this definitely is a lot more focused on the technical side of things. However, because this is a Kentico Xperience style guide, the technical stuff is very attached to the recommendations in that content modeling guide from Kentico. So there's going to be stuff in here that is going to be referencing that, and referencing blog posts and really anything by the community, by other MVPs that comes from our collective experience and what works well and what doesn't, and things that people might not be familiar with. So a lot of this, maybe you already know how best to structure a site, and that's worked well for you in your projects. But there might be things in here that you aren't familiar with. Maybe you just never saw it before. So for example, Trevor, if you can go to the project setup and configuration page. So like the maintain architectural decision records. Yeah. So maybe you've never heard of what this is. And your projects are going fine. But every once in a while you run into an issue where you made a change to the application and then someone is brought onto the project 9 months later, and they look at the way things are and they're very confused. Why would you ever do this? That's our instinct as developers, is to say, who was the idiot that made this change and decided to architect things this way? And what we usually lack in those situations both is empathy for the previous developers, even if a lot of times it's ourselves, but also context. And an architectural decision record is a way of structuring history of changes to an application so that developers later, including yourself, can have context as to why you made a change in the application. Sometimes this stuff can be found in project management tools or communications with stakeholders of a project. But there's a lot of times where there's very technical decisions that you make that aren't going to be there because the technical parts of that aren't important to those other parties. This is a document that you would keep in the repository with the project so that you could see changes to that decision record over time, and it would go through pull requests. So it could be reviewed when changes were made. And it would basically become a written ledger, a history of what happened to this project over time, what options were considered, and why a choice was specifically made. So this is just one recommendation amongst what are going to be many in the style guide of ways to structure your project, ways to use APIs, things to include, things to watch out for. And right now I'm kind of writing this a lot from my experience and my team's experience, but I'd also love for the community to give feedback on this. You can see, you can edit this page on GitHub, and you can come to this repository and make contributions. It's running on VuePress, which is based on Vue, but it's all in Markdown files. So if you're familiar with Markdown, you can go to any of these. Yeah, if you go back to the repository,
Yep,
and scroll up and go to the docs, and then guide, and you can see here's all the Markdown files. So you can make recommendations to add things, change them. We can have discussions about them. I have discussions enabled for this repository. So I'd love to see some contributions and thoughts from other people. I'm going to continue adding my own experiences and thoughts in here and trying to structure them well and linking out to the broader Kentico Xperience community projects, like some of Trevor's, Mike's libraries that they've created, other people's blog posts, links to the documentation. But really, this is meant to be a guide for how to structure and style Kentico Xperience applications, and I hope it's beneficial to people. Definitely a work in progress, but I think there's probably some valuable information in there even now.
definitely. And it's probably partly also come from me always asking Sean, hey, what's the best way to do this and that? So now we have a spot for it. So that is awesome. Like I said, and now speaking of these best practices, now I'm not saying they're all there yet. I'm going to do a segue. Talking about the new baseline site. So as I've been working, on our own projects, working on upgrades, and working with Sean a lot as well, because not only is he a co-MVP, but he's kind of a mentor to me, I would say. I don't think that's an overstatement by any shot. That we have at Heartland wanted to give people a good starting foundation that is based on a lot of these things. So we have, ever since Kentico Xperience 12, had our Heartland Business Systems baseline site. And that was a way to kind of get people started that has all the core features of a site, all the common patterns that you see in the site, navigation, tab pages, your structure in general, common repositories, generic pages, some basic widgets, all the things that you really kind of normally we're out of the box, but then we're not, so we had this, and then came Kentico Xperience 13, so we updated that. And really, when we did the update from 12 to 13, we just did a basic update. Like, we moved it to .NET Core, but a lot of the leftover way of doing things was left. Recently, and I think this is only, like I said, like 2 months ago, I think, we've revamped it. So we have taken what was the previous baseline, same feature set, but we've made everything async. We have restructured the solution to be a clean solution in terms of you have a models class, a libraries class, your experience models class, and then the site class, which a lot of our partners, like Sean does it with his projects, they just name them a little bit differently. Other of the MVPs have done this as well. So we kind of looked at what's everyone doing and what's a good pattern for it. So we revamped this baseline that if you have an existing baseline site, you can take that, move over your custom content to. If you have a 12 site and you're upgrading, now you have the proper baseline to go to. And a lot of the tools that we've discussed in this presentation are in this tool already. So we have a lot of and we're using them, like the page template utilities, the navigation feature, relationship extended. So it has all these tools baked into it to allow both developers and the users to have a positive experience with working with it. Along with that, we did a complete revamp of the documentation for it, which is right here. So here's the wiki on the baseline project that goes through the design patterns, the site features, the code features, default libraries that exist and what they do, and other things that are mentioned in it. So this is a tool that Heartland has given. This is what we start all of our sites with. So you can have, a partner that's been doing Kentico Xperience for Kentico for quite a while. This is what we use, and you can use the same thing. Now, I will say that, is it everything perfect? No. I've already found a couple bugs that have been fixed, and we're still adding more features. And should everyone use this? You guys, each person at their agency needs to decide which things they're going to use and whatnot. But this is a nice tool, especially for those that aren't in like a Kentico agency, that are just, hey, I'm a developer, I work for a company, they're going with Kentico, and I don't know what to do, that they can start here and have a baseline for everything, have their site up and running in about less than an hour, and that's mainly just the installation. This, you just copy and paste and set the connection strings, and get going with a site that has a lot of these things. We also, as part of this whole thing, revamped our structure to be more separated from what's a good word? We made it where all of the logic and rendering is Kentico agnostic. So as you go through the baseline, all the view components, all the models are all generic. They're not using Kentico. And the only thing that's part of Kentico is the APIs to get that data and then send it in the implementations, as well as, of course, widgets and paid templates. That's going to be Kentico specific, but it really makes it where it's now easier to test. You can fake everything. You can have your developers working on a whole system without even touching the database, test it, make sure it works, and then just write the connector to it, which is just making, hopefully, also upgrades a lot easier. So we've already been using this model now in it, and it's been working out really great. So highly encourage you, if you're looking for a good starting point, grab it. The other thing is that if you already have your existing site, there's a lot of features on here that I say, hey, I just want this feature, just grab it. It's all open source. You can take a look at where everything is in it. And since we're using feature folders, you could grab our entire account system, like, has baked in the account management. We are pushing up very shortly Facebook, Microsoft, and Twitter and Gmail integration as well. So you have the third-party login. So you can just grab all that and say, hey, I just want this. I'm just gonna grab that. Or you see an interface that, like, oh, I kind of like that interface, I want to grab that. Here's like a whole bunch of them, and just grab piecemeal whatever you want. Grab features, grab this, look how we did it, look how things are done. So that's a tool that's unavailable. That's for the community. And again, this is what we use. So we're not, no company secrets with this one. So just go to github.com/hpstech and the Kentico 13 core baseline project. And again, take a look at the wiki. Here's the installation. Here's any bug fixes. So if you do use it, check this periodically to see if something was fixed in it. It's getting more stable, but as with anything, you're going to find stuff that you missed exclamation mark on one part that screwed me up a little bit. Talks about how to do a fresh install, how to upgrade from a 12 baseline, how to upgrade from a previous 13 baseline, and things of that nature. So just has a lot of the core features baked into you, and again, it's totally free to use. So that actually, and I know we're a little over time, so thanks for staying late with us, but that is it for this episode of Ask the Experts. So I really hope that this presentation will help you know what's out there, be able to build sites easier, faster. Again, check out everyone on here, their blogs. Sean's blog is amazing. Mike and Jerome as well, all the different stuff that they do. And keep an eye out for the next Ask the Experts, which hopefully we'll be doing like a month or so. I know we have the connections coming up. Also, if you are looking, Kentico Connections is coming up in, like, I think a couple months, month and a half now or something like that. It's not far out there, so make sure to sign up for that. It's going to be online, so you don't have to travel, and you'll see some of us there again as well, talking about some of these different things. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all of our guests for joining as well, in terms of the people chatting. And if you were looking to join the show, please send me a message. We'd be glad to have you, and hope everyone has a great day, and happy coding, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Hope you survived Valentine's Day, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.